Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's a new video and today I am again outdoors in a green and beautiful Costa Rica, so you don't see my apartment anymore. I'm so happy for it. Some of you comment always like, yes, you are sitting in different places and stuff like that, or I'm changing my apartment. No guys, I don't change my apartments. I just like to shoot from different corners. But anyhow, back to the point. Today I'm going to talk about ENFPs and ESTPs, compatibility, and I want to share also bits of my experience with them, actually with one good friend of mine. If you want me to talk about ENFPs with other sensor types, don't forget to write your comments down below. And before I start, if you appreciate my content, consider buying me coffees, because I have a link down below here in the description where you can buy me coffees and choose how many coffees you want to treat me to. Remember, I offer one-on-one sessions, so check the information below. One more thing, I am going to be hosting YouTube live, so I want you to tell me, what do you want me to talk on the live so we can have an interaction, and also what is your preferable time? And let's dive in. ENFP and ESTPs, and I have my notes here. You want to see where I'm shooting, you wouldn't believe it. It's so beautiful. I'm going to show you in a moment. Okay, you know, I was surprised when I knew that my friend, my very dear friend, she is an ESTP, and I thought always that she was an ENTP, even though she got as result in her test ENFP. I knew she's not an ENFP, and I sensed this introverted thinking thing in her, you know, like this whole playfulness in like trying to dissect an idea. It was very playful, and a bit like kind of poking, you know, with her arguments and stuff like that. But she was not that annoying, and I have the idea that ESTPs are more annoying somehow. Sorry, ESTPs, if you're listening, watching this, I'm so sorry, I was stereotyping you. But then she did another test, and then she got this ESTP result, and it was like a test in which it shows the cognitive function, and extroverted sensing was very strong in her. And then I was like, yes, this makes so much sense, guys, because ESTPs, now that I put everything into context, this really makes sense. If you put an ESTP next to an ENTP, one next to each other, there is a big difference between them too. I noticed. And the ESTP is more hands-on. It's more like I have this idea and I'm gonna do it now, more than the ENTP can spend more time at, you can say, procrastinate than what the ESTP would do, because the ESTP is led by extroverted sensing, so they feel like this impulse. They're very impulsive, you know. I can say that many ESTPs as well, they are probably, the word is high sensation seeking. High sensation, I think the ESTP and the ESFP are probably I would say one of the two highest personality types with a high sensation seeking pattern. What does it mean? If you are not familiar with it, there is like a test you can check on Google, and you can measure if you're a high sensation seeking person, HSS. I did it myself as an ENFP. I don't score high on that one, definitely not. But they do, right? I did a test with my friend. So anyhow, the relationship between the two is, I think, it's awesome. ENFP and ESTP. ESTP and ENFP going on a trip. This is actually how it has been when I go on a trip with my very dear friend. She's very aware actually of, I don't know if very aware, but she takes me into consideration, I think, in a natural way more than what I do with her. Of course I take her into consideration, but I notice that her extroverted feeling is somehow there present. I can see it. I'm vegetarian. I was a vegan for some years, so she's like, oh, she's vegan, a vegetarian. I'm gonna search on Google. So she will prepare herself for going on a trip with me. I wouldn't even do it myself. I'm gonna search what vegetarians or vegan restaurants we can go to. So she pinned down her map with every single place where we could go and eat in Antwerp. So we went on a weekend to Antwerp. And that was awesome. And she does those kind of things often when she wants to be like more practical than me. Because in her opinion, it's like, it's going to save us time. because otherwise I, ENFP, can spend a lot of time by thinking like, where are we going to eat, or I don't know if I want to eat that because it has too much fat or it has too much sugar and all of that. And she knows me, so she takes that into consideration and tries to find the cleanest restaurant in the whole city, or the healthiest one, or stuff like that. And I just think like, wow, that really blew my mind. And for me as an ENFP, well, I don't know if every ENFP, but I think my love language is acts of service. And when someone does that, it's like, wow, that's so cool. So that I think works really well. Another thing that works really well is introverted thinking for them, I feel, is so milder than by INTPs, for instance, or by at or with INTPs or with ENTPs. I feel like TI, introverted feeling, can feel more like, okay, they're challenging me, kind of. But with them, with ESTPs, now I notice it's like, actually, they use introverted thinking in a very interesting way, in my opinion. So it's like, okay, let me explain how introverted thinking works for them compared to an INFJ. An INFJ has introverted thinking on a third slot, and they have it on a second slot. What that means is like they can use it in a better way, a more effective way than an INFJ would do. So the INFJ would get very frustrated trying to understand something and trying to dissect the truths, and they will fight with the other. And I love INFJs, but as an ENFP, I sometimes clash with INFJ when they get to that point when they want to kind of win. So they're trying to win more than anything in an argument. But the ESTP, on the other hand, is like they're just thinking for the sake of thinking and for the sake of trying to find the holes and the you can say where there is a an error in a system. So they try and find, but they do it in a playful way that they're not trying to convince me, they're not trying to argue with me, they're just trying to put out the facts. And that's just so nice. Actually, with some INTPs, I do have that kind of TI interaction. But I've seen that ESTP and an INFJ talk with each other, and the ESTP is like so playful, and they would go and say whatever reasoning they want to say, like trying to, as I say, play with an idea. But they don't get annoyed. They're just so cool and relaxed, and the INFJ gets so frustrated. So that's very interesting to see. So I can see how that, putting it into the context of ENFP and ESTP, how that quality works well between ENFP and ESTP. I'm not saying it's the best match of the world, because I don't know, and I'm talking about from my experience with a friendship. So I don't know how that would play a role with a romantic relationship, but I do notice that the way of, as I say, using the logical, rational thinking of the ESTP is just playful. I just noticed that I don't have much of a conflict with them when there is, let's say, a difference. And when we are trying to understand a concept or play with an idea, we can both play with it. And it's a point, we reach both a point where we both say like, okay, let's move on next to something. And I think that's because, I believe that's because extroverted sensing helps there amazingly, because extroverted sensing just wants to, being here and now, and for them it's a waste of time to keep dwelling on, these thoughts. And for the INFJ, on the other hand, for them it's like the TI is being used by introverted intuition. Introverted intuition is in the future, and they want to keep doing and keep digging and keep hooked in trying to find the truth and fighting, and when the INFJ, of course, is in this mood, because they normally are not there. But for the ESTP, it's just like, let's play with this idea, let's see where we end up. And if we don't end up anywhere, they're like, hey, look at that tree, let's climb up the tree, and it's over. I love it. So I noticed that ESTPs help ENFPs to be more in the present, but also they are people very active. I want to even say sporty, but of course that's going to vary from person to person. But this friend of mine, she's always, like, I want to go tomorrow to the beach, and she would just go to the beach. She wants to go to the beach, she would do that. And there is also a lot of practicality, I think. It's like, in her life, I noticed that ESTP just says like, okay, I know that working out for me 3 times a week is good, and they just do it. And I noticed this is also nice compared to, let's say, an introverted intuition dominant or auxiliary, or even an extroverted intuition dominant or auxiliary. It's like we intuitives, we tend to like dwell more on things because we're trying to figure out the best way to do something, or you know, all of those things that intuitives do, because we are looking more into the future and the patterns, and they are just more here and now, and that's something amazing, and I really love it. So I'm starting to understand more and more as I live and as I understand Myers-Briggs, the beauty in the differences between intuition and sensing. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, one thing I wrote here is she makes me to be more focused on experiencing the now, to experience the experience, you know, instead of, you know, being sometimes, I don't know, in my mind, because ENFPs, we do tend to be a lot in our minds. Maybe we're not as focused on the big picture and the future. We do that, you know, but it's more like I can walk on the city. We did this actually exercise. We were, okay, when you walk in the city, what do you see? And I say, when I walk in the city, we both live in Amsterdam, so I see the buildings, but immediately I go away and I start making stories and I start building ideas and all of that. And she's like, I really appreciate every single detail of the house, of the blocks, or like of the windows, or what curtains they have. So she's really present into like the details. So I think like when you mix those two, you can have a lot of fun. Again, as I said, I don't know how would it be if we're talking about a romantic relationship. I haven't had it. If you want to know my take on ENFPs and ESFPs, I have an experience and I have a video on my channel, so make sure to go and check it out. Let me know what you think about this. Are you an ESTP with an ENFP, or the other way around? Do you resonate with my experience or not? So I want to hear it in the comments below. Remember that you can treat me to coffees and check down the information for having one-on-one sessions with me. And now I want to show you actually the whole place where I'm at. If you're here, you deserve to see this. It's so beautiful. All right, guys, I see you next time. And, oh, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, okay? @mindimalist. Bye.